excuse me. Okay, I'm up. Okay, so let's do this then. So, the Hawkeye. We got more Marvel. more Marvel TV to talk about. Yeah, okay. But I guess this will give my spirits a lift. It's the 10th anniversary of Captain America: The First Avenger. Christ, I feel old. Easily one of my favorite films of the MCU's first phase, and I still think it's one of the better MCU films. And to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Captain America: The First Avenger, Digiati are hosting another WinX DVD Ripper giveaway. Follow the link in the description below to light a candle for Captain America: The First Avenger's 10th anniversary, and you could be in with a chance to win some great prizes, including a 60% off coupon for WinX HD Video Converter Deluxe, Amazon gift cards, and more. You can enter via the link in the description below. Good luck, champs. And thanks again to Digiati for sponsoring this video. Okay, so episodes 1 and 2 of Hawkeye just dropped. Before I get into kind of reviewing these two episodes, I really need to admit that I'm feeling a bit of MCU burnout. Okay, so we had a year off from Marvel in 2020, but moving into 2021, we've had WandaVision, we've had The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we've had Loki, we've had What If, we've had Black Widow, we've had Shang-Chi, we've had The Eternals, we've had fucking Hawkeye now, and then next month we got Spider-Man No Way Home. That is way too much. Now, I know that over on DC, they've got various TV shows on the CW, and they run for a lot longer than this, and I'm not saying they're any better. I mean, I think most of the DC shows are a lot worse than the Marvel ones, but they are at least from different companies, producers have different overall styles, and I mean, considering I don't watch most of them, it's not really my problem, whereas these MCU ones are good enough to get me tuning in, but they're not good enough to avoid me getting fatigued by them. What I mean to say is how much content we've had this year is actively working against my overall enjoyment of these shows. If you look back at my What If reviews, I was noticeably much more burnt out during that by the very premise of that show, and a lot more critical for it. Probably more critical than I would have been had I just entered it fresh from like a break or something. I'm not saying don't make these shows and stuff, but I think Marvel needs to slow down a little bit. With that said, I'm always game for Spider-Man, so what does that say, you know? Like, Spider-Man No Way Home is the Marvel project I'm excited about this year. Very excited about. I mean, as it stands, they are pulling out all the stops, but put it this way, Marvel characters come and go, I'm always gonna want more Spider-Man. But as more and more of these shows come, the less I have to say about each and every one of them. I watched Black Widow and Shang-Chi recently. I don't have much to say about them. Will I do videos on them in the future? Depends if you guys want to see me talk about that. I haven't seen the Eternals yet because, I mean, A, there's been way too much Marvel this year, and B, I have no prior interest in the Eternals, you know? Like, I mean, I didn't have that with necessarily Shang-Chi either, but, like, just, I don't know. I do not know really what to think right now. I guess Shang-Chi's helped by the fact that there's one main character that I need to get to know, whereas Eternals has a whole toy box of characters for me to get to know. At the same time, they did that already with Guardians of the Galaxy, and the Eternals should be up my street, as it seems to be some things that I've been asking for a little more as of late. A more serious story, apparently taking a little inspiration from Zack Snyder, which can only be a good thing as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, moving into Hawkeye, I want to be fair on it, and I want to be, you know, as positive about this as I would be for another Marvel project, but I just can't shake the fact that generally I'm kind of I'm in a position where I'm going into this like, right, okay, more of this. And Hawkeye from the get-go kind of drew a giant red ring about, I think, my emerging problem with Phase 4 of the MCU. It seems to be a bit indulgent. Now, I get that there's quite a bit of this stuff that is perfectly relevant to the plot, but there was an awful lot of like, oh, remember the Battle of New York? Remember Avengers 1? Remember the Avengers? Yeah, wasn't that awesome? This is such a pop culture phenomenon, guys. I mean, really, it's crazy. What we've got here is an unforgettable story, and the show is just, well, there's a lot of that, and there are cases to be made to say that it's relevant, but like between this and the other Marvel shows we had recently, it does start to feel like you're being bombarded a little bit by the history of the MCU and the sort of self-aware meta-narrative that, gosh, all this stuff that happened in the MCU is super important. I think the most egregious example of this was in the first episode of Loki, where Loki was basically reacting to the events of the MCU, getting all teary-eyed and stuff, and it is just like, look how emotionally engaging our films were, guys. Then moving over into this, the opening scene from the get-go, we've got the Chitauri invasion of New York, we've got Kate Bishop witnessing Hawkeye in the fight, and that's all fine contextual stuff and everything, that I understand why that does need to be there. It's a difficult thing to do. I kind of almost feel like we would have been better off having this done through expositional dialogue in a way, because it does get to the point where it's like, oh look, it's the Avengers. Yay! Oh, fucking dig my own grave. That's a big issue. It means that I'm desensitized to something that used to get me so damn excited. And I don't think it's helped by the oversaturation of Marvel media. It's bad enough we had the What If series rubbing itself off about these iconic MCU stories, these stories with new twists. Just let me appreciate the stories at my own liberty. I don't need you guys doing it in front of me. Oh, bloody hell, there's also the Rogers musical. Now, I get its place in this universe. I really, really do. I get it. It just goes on really long. And it's got this song all about being able to do this all day. Like, just, you know, what Captain America used to say. And it was like, oh, it's that thing Captain America used to say. Oh, this is great. But it's, you know, it's very indulgent. Very, very indulgent. And then in episode 2, we got people dressed like the Avengers, and I'm like, oh, it's the Avengers. Oh, I really like the Avengers. Oh, look, they're dressed as the Avengers. I want to dress as the Avengers. That's so cool. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, no, am I making a big deal about this? I feel like I might be making a bigger deal about this than is necessary, but it is getting to a point where I'm like, oh, I'm feeling that Disney sense of ego in these projects now. You know how Disney's like, every film we've ever made is a classic, and it's like, well, I'll be the judge of that motherfucker. Like, that's what we've kind of, that's kind of the territory we're moving into with Marvel. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, you know? Like, we've had plenty of instances where, you know, events of previous Marvel films have been perfectly relevant to the stories that are current, but it is really just getting like, oh, he fought Thanos. Oh, he was in the Avengers compound, everybody. Oh. Moving past that, though, Hawkeye episodes 1 and 2 were fine. So let me just get this out of the way. If you were hoping for Clint Barton to finally get the spotlight, there's still not what's happening here. This is a legacy show. This is about Kate Bishop becoming a Hawkeye, the new Hawkeye. So yeah, if you wanted Clint to get the spotlight, no, that's not what's happening here. This is Kate Bishop's show, which is fine. It's just funny to me how, like, it feels like Clint is destined to kind of hang back a bit. I mean, the way I see it, Age of Ultron is Hawkeye's movie. That's his one. So yeah, Kate Bishop, a vigilante, she does archery and stuff, very much inspired by Hawkeye during the events of the Battle of New York. And she's got herself in a whole heap of trouble, and it's up to Clint to help her out and help her kind of become Hawkeye. It's the passing of the torch, it's the apprentice. Which is something we've seen now plenty of times, but, like, it's fine. It's still good here. I think the thing that I was most excited about this was that this is set at Christmas time, and it will get me back into the Christmas spirit. And it's like, that's where we're at, huh? Like, the thing I'm most excited about this particular Marvel project is the fact that it's festive. That's where the bar is right now. That's how much we kind of seen everything, you know? Oh, boy. But the vibe is there, it does add something, I do like it. I like the character of Kate Bishop so far, and I like her dynamic with Clint. I think my favorite moment for Clint was definitely in episode 2, where he's trying to get the Ronin suit back. And he's going to this fantasy roleplay convention, and he's getting kind of stuck in. He's kind of reluctant to be there, and he's having to make some pretty unorthodox deals to get his Ronin suit back. But it's nice to see kind of the cracks in that kind of facade. I mean, there's kind of, that's part of the whole story, is kind of Kate Bishop is trying to convince Hawkeye to be a bit more charismatic, to take a bit more pride in his job as a superhero. How the other Avengers are much more marketable than he is. Literally, that's That's a thing right there. They have a conversation about making Hawkeye more marketable. That's very, very meta. So it's kind of like you got the jaded original that doesn't want to be a superhero anymore, Peter B. Parker, and then you've got the plucky apprentice who really wants to step up, Miles Morales. Except I preferred it when it was Spider-Man, but that's just because I have a massive bias towards Spider-Man. No, but as I say, this is all fine stuff. There's only like a few small things that I wasn't too pleased about. For example, as I said, the Rogers musical goes on way too long, super self-indulgent, didn't like that. I doubt that these are the main villains, and we've seen already that they're working for someone else, but the Tracksuit Gang, yeah, they're just Russian stereotypes. I'm surprised this is still considered okay, but like, I mean, I did laugh at a few points, I won't lie, I did laugh. But they're very much these comedic goons, and that's about all there is to them. I think, you know, whoever is behind all this is going to be taking center stage. There was this fight at the end of episode 1, and this is not a criticism that is exclusive to Hawkeye by any stretch. But, like, they do this thing where it's like the fight choreography is just kind of... The main choreography is fine, but they don't know what to do with the characters that aren't immediately involved. So you've got many times where Hawkeye's fighting off one goon while the other goons are just kind of standing there. And come on, like, have a little attention to detail maybe. I also felt that some of the dialogue was really clunky in places, particularly in, like, the opening of episode 1. There's the part where where Kate Bishop is at her father's funeral, and she's saying to her mum, like, I need to protect us. And, like, it very much telegraphs her becoming the new Hawkeye and everything. And it's just like, it's very, very on the nose. Almost to, like, a CW degree on the nose. A character I actually quite liked was Jack. I talked about the tracksuits, but we got another kind of mysterious, almost villainous character in this, Jack. And I'm wondering if he actually is going to be as villainous as he's kind of coming across right now. He's basically Kate Bishop's mum's boyfriend. I'm not going to call him her stepfather because that's up to her to decide, and she certainly doesn't feel that way right now. Kate Bishop thinks that he's pretty sus. And he's really trying to keep her guard down. And it's good stuff, their dynamic. I really like the dynamic between Kate Bishop and Jack. I also like the whole dynamic of Clint wanting to get back home to his family as well. He wants the family Christmas, but he's swept up in all of this noise with Kate Bishop. He kind of low-key seems to have a certain sense of kind of resentment for it, like the whole situation. He's kind of very reluctant to be working with her, but he does ultimately care about her safety. But he's not interested in this being like a buddy cop series or anything like that. He just wants to get this done and go home. I like that dynamic. I like that they kind of got that relatable side to Clint Barton. He's always been the very human core of the Avengers team. And I like that he's kind of the Avenger that just wants to go home. I like that. He just wants to go home. And then, of course, there's the dog. The dog. I like the dog. Of course I like the dog. Why would I not like the dog? I love dogs. I mean... Could you tell? So I'm going to wrap it up here, kind of. Like, the first couple of episodes were fine. I don't really have that much to say about them. We've established some characters and some tension is rising. That's all I really got right now. Maybe I'll get a little more later on. In terms of theories, I get the feeling that Jack is going to be some kind of bait-and-switch character, and that he's actually going to be not so bad after all. I know that he's someone in the comics and stuff, but I get the feeling they might be changing things up a little bit here. I think Clint is definitely going to warm up a bit. Like, it's going to be a whole thing of, like, Kate Bishop teaches him to loosen up a little bit, and he teaches Kate Bishop how to kind of trust her intuitions and instincts and be a better hero and all that jazz. Like, I think that kind of character arc there is going to be as predictable as, well, it sounds. That's not a bad thing, though. I don't mind that. Like, it's a tried and tested formula, it works, and I'm sure it will work here. I think it's the other story elements surrounding that which is where the surprises will come in. Obviously, we can expect to see Yelena from the Black Widow movie make an appearance in this, and she's after Hawkeye. We're already kind of following the enemies that the Ronin made along the way. And I hear rumors that Vincent D'Onofrio is going to be returning as the Kingpin in a future episode, which I would be excited for. So I kind of like the sound of Kate Bishop carrying this legacy with a bunch of people that want this character dead. It's kind of interesting to see the enemies that Clint himself has made along the way. You don't often look into the side of things where it's like Hawkeye's made his own enemies. We've seen him, like, tag along with the team fighting Zemo and Ultron and Loki and Thanos, but we haven't really seen his own enemies until now, which I think is a cool thing. I kind of almost feel like we could have had a couple of episodes devoted to his time as the Ronin, because we didn't really get to see much of that. Maybe we will see that in like a flashback episode, maybe. Who knows? So those are kind of my predictions, I guess, and theories. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below as well, okay? It's kind of important to me. Anyways, thanks a bunch for tuning in once again. Bye-bye. So what do you guys think? If you enjoyed this video and you want to support more like it, be sure to hit that big, beautiful subscribe button. And of course, in the description below are links to different social media feeds, including the Patreon. If you're feeling extra generous like the following people, who are David 20 Covers, JK Strife, Marcus Ward, Sirius the Skeptic, Biotinarts, Mr. SP, Sergio, George is Lost, Legendary Ray Ray, Cheesemaster769, Adam Myers, and Fayalan Schwarzentraub. Thank you guys, you are the best of the best, but as for the rest of you, thank you so much for watching, guys, and have a great day.